Hey everyone, I'm back and talking about last week's Sunday preview on Warhammer Community because it was all about Necromunda and the update to the Aranthian Succession Campaign in the form of the new book, Ruins of Jardlan. Now, I don't know if you've been following the latest and most world-breaking campaign there is for Necromunda, but you should be, because it has been pulling no punches in tearing up the history books and changing the world of Necromunda forever. This third installment looks to be taking the story out into the Ash Waste, and I cannot be nothing but excited for it. So if you aren't familiar with the story, here's a little bit of an overview of what has been happening in the worlds of Necromunda so far. So in the first book of this campaign, Cinder Burning, the story of Necromunda is brought in line with the wider 40k universe, as the Scissortrick Maledictum, aka the Great Rift, opens up and causes devastating effects across the galaxy. This Great Rift then starts to affect Necromunda in many ways. First off, all the heat pumps that power and generate heat for the Hive cities immediately fail, leading to chaos and a rebellion across the world of Necromunda. The Palatine forces are stretched thin, the Underhive is shut off from the Hive cities above, and more extreme measures are implemented. All the while in the Ash Waste, unprecedented storms start to emerge. This leads to something known as the Season of Ash. Hidden amongst these swirling clouds, the Ash Waste nomads start a mass migration, their destination as yet unknown. And amongst all this chaos, seemingly unknown forces enact a plan that cannot be coincidental, as a truly powerful cybernetic assassin is dispatched to take out the High Lord Helmor himself. Now, doing a bit of an emperor, he doesn't quite kill him, but mortally wounds him so much so that he has to be put into a stasis chamber and hidden from sight in order for him to survive. More on that later. Now, talking of coincidence, the minute this happens, the heat sumps all start working again and everything seems fine with them. Yet, it's not so fine in the Hive cities themselves. As we know from famous TV shows, succession is no easy feat, and particularly when Helmor himself has 17 legitimate sons and 13 illegitimate daughters, as well as countless illegitimate children, including none other than Cal Jericho himself, of which I probably need to do an episode anyway. They all start the usual political machinations against one another. And whilst this infighting is happening in the royal house, a certain someone known as Lady Credo starts their own rebellion. They employ the House of Hulanti and their Escher gang to try and fight for their cause. This causes a rift within the gang themselves, which starts a certain civil war, but also gives Credo a fighting force of which to challenge the higher houses of Helmar with. Now, within the royal house, the 13th daughter, Lady Hera, seems to be able to take the top spot and claims the throne of Necromunda for herself, yet without imperial consent, which we know probably doesn't always go well for people. This then leads us to the first key battle between these two factions, where the House Goliath battles House Escher for the city of Cinderak, which is an Ash Waste settlement not too far from Primus. House Escher comes up on top, but bruised and bloodied, but cements the rebellion for Lady Credo against the House of Helmor. And this leads us on to the second book, Vaults of Temenos. So, in this second book, and within the chaos left behind by the first, a fundamentalist religious zealot known as the Prophet takes rise within the Redemptionist gang. This Prophet, nonetheless, has visions of holy relics hidden beneath the vaults of the Hive city of Temenos. Now, not only does this fundamentalist further take hold of the House of Cawdor as they run rampage across the Hive world of Necromunda, but also the peoples who have been disillusioned by the rebellions and chaos. They see this new faith as some form of savior. And as it's called, Great Pilgrimage, moves across the world towards the Hive city of Temenos, it gains greater and greater followers. Now, that's what's happening in the Ash Waste, but back on Hive Primus, Lady Credo calls on none other than Cal Jericho himself to steal the stasis chamber which is holding the Lord Helmar. Now, in this, it is revealed that her backers are none other than the Aranthus house, the ancient and lost house that used to be the rivals, the key rivals, that is, of House Helmor. You can find out more about them in my History of Necromunda series, which I'll put a link up here. Now, it's probably quite obvious that they're the backers since it's called the Aranthian Succession, but if you do remember from my history of, they are also the peoples that were led by Cybernak, who was someone who never died and kept coming back from the Ash Wastes until, I think it was M38, but I'll have to double check. I think it might be M39. Now, in the process, Lady Hera is forced to flee from Hive Primus with the help of the Palatine Enforcers, where she can regroup and maybe do a bit of a Cybernak herself and come back stronger from the Ash Wastes. And so the second book ends with all these factions circling around the Hive City of Temenos itself. Now, this third book, I have no much more information than what's in the Sunday preview, but if that's anything to go by, it's all going to be centering around the Ash Waste, because all the models that are shown have that sort of focus. So first up for the Van Saar, we have new Arachna rigs. They already had these, but these ones get jump packs, which means they can get around the Ash Waste a little bit quicker. But the one I'm really interested in is the Lady of Ash, a cool new Nomads model, a bit of a special character for them, who has a familiar known as Terror's Shadow, which is a grapple hawk, a really cool kind of old hammer looking monster, which I'm kind of keen on, so I'm probably going to have to pick one of those up. And to go with that, there's some new Ash Waste terrain, which is pretty much very similar to what you get in the Ash Wastes sort of main box. Again, that sort of Ewoks meets Fremen sort of look with these towering, rising above the Ash Waste sort of outpost buildings. Yeah, really cool. If you haven't got the box set, something you can just buy there and something to play around with if you're going to be using this next campaign, which I again assume is probably going to be hanging around the Ash Waste a lot. Other than that, we don't know what the ruins of Jardlan are, but I'm assuming they're going to be really cool, and when the book does come out, I will be sure to make a new video which updates us on that then. So not only has that been a look at the Sunday preview from last week, but also a little brief dive into the Aranthian Succession, which I didn't plan when I was looking at this, but I think it's such a great campaign that everyone who's playing Necromunda should definitely check it out. Not only does it bring you in line with the 40k timeline now with the Cicatrix Maledictum, but it seems to be shaking up the history and lore of Necromunda for the future to come. So if you want to be a part of that, you can be playing those games now. And I have played a brief amount of it in a campaign, and what was fun at the beginning was not only focusing on your gang, but then getting into a wider faction-based rule set, which meant that you could have gangs from other sides of the fence joining forces because they either focus on the rebellious side or on Helmar's side. And it was really cool that you could have some rebellious Goliaths if you have, or some rebellious Eshers fighting with rebellious Orlocks, and you could do games with like 2v2 if you wanted to bring both of your gangs to the table to play against two other friends' gangs. So I think that opens up the gameplay a bit more, and then the actual scenarios in the game seem to be really well received, and there are some fun things in that Vaults of Temenos which I haven't yet had a go at playing, but they bring a new set of gameplay rules into it, which I think is quite fun. Anyway, that's everything today. I know I've been promising my Ganglong videos for a while, and they are coming, and they just take a long time to write because I'm trying to condense everything down into singular episodes. But in the meantime, be sure to subscribe, press a like because it does a lot for the channel, and press the bell if you want to get notifications when a new video comes up. Anyway, that's everything for today. Don't forget, you stay safe in the Underhive. Bye everyone.